Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Brunslick, and I am so excited for you to listen to this episode. When I say so excited, I am so excited. This was one of the grossest, most entertaining, that's it, grossest and most entertaining episodes to date. It is PG. Don't worry, we're not talking about sex or like badges or anything that kind of gross. We're talking about parasites and worms and mold. It's good. But before we jump into that, I have a really funny story to tell you. I wrote this down because as it was playing out in real life, I was laughing and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to share this story on the podcast. Okay. So I am flying home from Austin, Texas, and it's a like 8:30 p.m. flight. And so it's darker in the cabin. This all is necessary for the story. And so I had been on the plane 3 days earlier on Delta and knew like I was going to watch Brendan Fraser. Is that his name? Brendan Fraser from The Mummy? I was going to watch his movie Whale, okay? Because I had seen that it was on as new releases, and I was like, oh yeah, I was going to watch that. So I get on prepared to watch Whale. It's not there anymore. While I was in Texas, Delta changed their new releases. And much to my surprise, Whale is gone, but Magic Mike 4 is on. And so here's what goes through my head. Ooh, I really wanted to watch Magic Mike. I wanted to like do a girls' night, like go get happy hour and then go watch this movie that we all know is going to be terrible in the theaters. It never ended up happening because life is busy. Now here's what continues to go through my head. I'm going to watch this for sure. I don't really have time at home because Kirby won't watch this. So watching it on a plane is a perfect time, but also not really perfect because directly next to me, I'm in a window seat. Directly next to me in the middle seat is a 60-some-year-old white Delta pilot, male. Like, we're right there. He's a big guy. He's I don't know, like 6-something. You know, he's not small. He's in my airspace. I'm in his airspace right next to me. And it's dark. So, and I'm in the front seat of Delta Comfort. So this makes it worse where the screen has to like pivot up from under your seat and it's only sitting like 18 inches in front of you. So it is like right basically in front of him as well, my screen. And so I'm like, okay, ideally great time to watch Magic Mike because nobody else in my life wants to watch it. On the other hand, this guy's here. But then on the other hand, 2 weeks from that point, I was going to be back on a Delta plane for 12 hours of travel time going to Hawaii. But that time, I'm going to be next to my child. So there's no way so I'm like, okay, so I'm on the plane for the next 3 hours, and then I have 12 hours of travel time on Delta in 2 weeks. So there's no time that there's no way that I'm going to withhold my willpower for 15 hours without watching Magic Mike. The question now becomes, is it less uncomfortable to watch it in front of the stranger 3 inches away from me or next to my child? And I'm like, well, I'm a good parent and I don't know this dude. So I'm watching Magic Mike right now. So if you've seen Magic Mike 4, you know that it is not getting any Academy Awards. Terrible movie. Probably the worst of the Magic Mikes, but there is a scene 4 minutes into the movie that has me feeling uncomfortable reliving this moment right now, watching this scene with Channing Tatum dance in front of Salma Hayek. It's hot. It's a hot and bothered scene. And there's no way that this pilot next to me this is like in his eye line. This is no way. And they have good eyes and it's dark. Oh my gosh. So I am just crawling inside myself being like, you have to fast forward, but I don't want to fast forward. This is what you watch Magic Mike for, is this scene right now. So I do have a video from later that I will, if somebody reminds me, if you're listening, send me a DM on Instagram saying, hey, I want to see the video that you filmed on the plane, and I will share it on Insta stories, because it is so funny and awkward that I like secretly film this like strip scene or like Magic Mikey scene happening, and then you can like I pivot and you can see the dude. Don't worry, he can't see me. But yeah, so if somebody reminds me, I will share that. So that's what's going on in my life. Now seems like a great time to cut to a shout out to one of our sponsors, Sked. They are fantastic. And if you are looking for a way to communicate with your patients easier, in current 2023, I highly recommend texting them. Now, I will say that we've been with 2 other texting platforms before Sked. I'm not going to say their names because they're great companies and they're doing, I'm sure, a great job. But I do get frequent questions. I'm currently with X. Is Sked better? And I will say, yeah, the features. Was actually what I exactly said. Is I haven't texted a patient or ran the front desk in 7 years, but I can tell you that when we did like the introductory like showcase call of like, should we switch to Sked or not, my CAs were so freaking excited. And I just turned to them and I was like, yeah, this is a big deal for you. And they were like, yeah, we're not able to do this on the other one. And it creates all sorts of problems. This would be amazing. So I'm like, oh, okay. If you guys are getting all excited about it. So go ahead, click the link in my show notes and check out Sked if you haven't, because apparently your CAs will drool over their features. All right, on to our guest. All right, this is another one of those times where I don't have a bio. I need to crack down on this podcast and make people give me a bio. So she is TikTok's unofficial worm queen. She became TikTok famous a year ago, maybe more. I found her on Instagram. So her name is Kim Rogers, and she's the worm queen, you guys. Go check out her socials. They're fantastic. You will go down the wormhole. You'll also never want to eat fish. Order your steak medium rare. Okay, you're probably going to start washing your produce too. And you're like, Lauren, I already washed my produce. Okay, do you rinse it like I do? Or do you like wash it? And if you're like, Lauren, I wash it. You don't? You're gross. I guess I did learn I am gross. So this is amazing. I know that you are going to listen to this episode and you're going to want to do a cleanse. I have already ordered not just one cleanse because I'm going to do a cleanse. I'm convinced that Kirby needs to do a parasite cleanse because he actually developed an egg allergy after eating way too many raw oysters in New Orleans. And that'll make sense as to why Kirby needs to cleanse. I'm going to have Ty do a cleanse because she started getting really bad stomach aches after like swimming in a lake a ton. So there's 3 kits I ordered. I've talked to 2 of my best friends being like, girl, do you know that we are the only country that doesn't regularly do, well, we're not the only country. Canada and the UK also don't. Like, we need to do cleanses. So I've already ordered like 7 kits. I also have like 5 patients that I'm like, oh, they need to do a cleanse. They totally need to do a cleanse. So you will see my affiliate link in the show notes. I don't get paid very much at all. I think like $5 or something like that, but you're going to get 10% off. Also, if you're like, this is a thing that you think you should do for your patients, maybe you should just sign up as an affiliate as well. I don't think you sign up under me. This did not become all of a sudden a weird multi-level marketing thing. I promise. Lauren's not paying her bills on parasite cleanse yet. Just kidding. So we're going to pray and then hold on to your belt buckles. Is that what you hold on? Do you hold on to your underwear? Do you hold on to your socks? Hold on to your socks. That's the phrase, because this is a very fun episode that you're gonna love. Oh, and you're gonna cringe so many times. Hopefully at some point we're gonna start putting stuff on YouTube. Because this would have been a great episode for you to be able to see my face while you watch it because I am so creeped out at so many points. All right. Let's breathe and calm down. Take a breath. Dear God, what the heck? What is up with the worms and the parasites? What purpose do they serve? Why? Why do you do this? Well, also mosquitoes. Why? I have so many questions that one day will hopefully make sense. That's my prayer today, God. Thanks. Thanks for all the weirdness in the world. And I don't know if you made parasites. I don't know if that's how it worked. Like, I don't know if you made mosquitoes, but if you did, maybe you just got down a weird rabbit hole like we all do sometimes, where it's like, well, shoot, I made this thing. And now that's going to, without, I need to make something to eat that. Otherwise, that's going to get out of hand. So I'll make mosquitoes. Oh, shoot, now mosquitoes are going to get out of hand. So now I'll make bats. And then, oh, shoot, the bats are going to get out of hand. So I don't know. So I don't know what kind of weird rabbit hole you found yourself in where you felt like, oh, can't go back. But I do have questions. So, and thanks for making me full of questions. So in your name we pray. Thank you for the weirdness of this earth. And thanks for anti-parasitics. Thanks for people who make things so we can become the healthiest version of ourselves. And thanks for our continued brain learning so we can help our patients become better versions of themselves. In your name we pray. Amen. See, people, not every prayer needs to be great or super like meaningful. You can just say, God, why? Why parasites and worms? All right, without further ado, one of my favorite episodes to date, the Worm Queen, Kim Rogers. I need to become an affiliate, but here's the
Yes.
problem. I am so interested in so many topics that like guests that I have on that I would affiliate for like everything. I would just be everything. But here's what I'll say. The one topic, so I am really interested with this being a practicing chiropractor because I think we have so many patients that I'm like, dude, there is something effed up with your gut, or there is something effed up with your immune system. So I probably will. Because
You should.
so
You should. We
you
can
know
send
how like
you a link, and then you just put it in your profile.
yes,
It's really.
do it.
I mean, I have like 45 personal affiliates that I'm with. Just because when I talk about them, it's just so much easier to be like, go to my profile, click there, and then bam, and then they get like 10, 20% off, whatever. That's kind of the perk.
So yeah, absolutely send me the link because I know you know how the universe is like brings topics into your life where you're like, okay, I get it. So in addition to parasites and mold being something that's like, okay, I have a feeling like personally, professionally, it just keeps coming up. That's what's going on. So I'm freaked out. So I'm
Well,
freaked
let me
out.
just tell you that thanks for having me. And I mean, I am making a splash on Insta, but I have like 420,000 followers on TikTok. Like that's where I was.
Well, I finally
That's where I
found
was
you.
born.
I finally found you on. Well, actually, how I found you was one of my patients said, she's like, yeah, I'm doing a parasite cleanse right now. And I think I slapped her shoulder and I said, shut up. Where'd you get that from? Because we're in a small area. Okay. So, like,
Mhm.
we're in Northwest Wisconsin. If
Okay.
I'm not bringing this weird, crunchy health stuff to our patients, I'm shocked when they're doing something because I'm like, who
Yeah.
told you that? Because if it didn't come from me, where did you get this? And so she was like, oh, I follow this chick on Instagram. And so I was like, well, I've been looking for someone to come on the podcast and talk. So, okay. So how did your involvement in this realm start? Not TikTok necessarily, but like,
Just,
how did you get
just,
involved? Yeah.
just the Okay, so I worked in Western medicine since 2004, and I was very like dedicated to the practices and how, everything worked. And I have two different healthcare degrees. And then I got sick myself, and they couldn't like, I mean, I had endometriosis like since I was 20. So I've always had personal health issues, and then professionally I was in the health world. And then about 4 years ago, we moved out to our property to build our log home. And in the process, I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So I just decided to try Paragard, which I don't recommend it unless you have help. And that's how Parafy came about, which is my kit. Anyway, so my pain went away. Like I had weird
Okay,
pains.
back up. What's Parasite then? Like, I
Paragard
am
is
fresh
okay.
into this
So
world. Like, I know nothing.
you can get like a main cleanse on Amazon, and it's literally just that. You take it for 30 days, and it doesn't have any assistance with it. It doesn't have any help. Like you can't talk to anyone, you can't email anyone. Like you buy it on Amazon and that's it. And that's like where everyone's like, "Oh, it's a trend." I mean, yeah, it's a trend. It was $30, but then as my husband and I did it, we realized that you can't just take Paragard. Like you really need to take other things. That's how my company was born. But we'll back up. So there's worms in our water where we live,
How did you know
and
that?
because I had my water tested. So I kept getting sicker and sicker, and I had weird like outbreaks. I had really strange feeling, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Pretty typical reasoning why people do parasite cleansing. They can't figure out what's wrong with them. And I had movement, especially over the full moon. I had flare ups. Like there were things that were going on. And come to find out, I had Cryptosporidium parvium, which is a parasite, and roundworm and pinworms, all
Oh,
because of
okay.
our water. I know.
Okay. When you said you had movement, what does
Yeah,
that
I could feel movement. So it would some
inside your
months
body?
it would be like just like on my side where they used to do a lot of surgeries on me for my endometriosis, and then I would have, movement in the nether regions. And I would think that it was just like maybe I hadn't wiped right, or I hadn't showered, and I wasn't in my bidet life at that point because we were building a log home. So, like all these things. No, that wasn't it at all. I
So
actually had parasites.
okay. So you felt movement. So not like, oh, was that a gas pain like in my abdomen? But you said on your side. Like, what did that feel like?
Yeah, so like right on my hip. And I used to get like pelvic floor physical therapy, and just yeah, like on my hip, like I would have this weird, and I took Paragard for 3 days, and bam, it was gone. It was the wormwood. Now I know from all of the things I've done over the last 2 years, because it's been 2 years since I went viral. And so now I know what was going on is I had like a infestation on the side of
You nasty
roundworm.
bitch, you.
Oh my
Oh my
god, it was so gross. Like, and I'm like one of the few people that'll talk about it. So when I started 2 years ago in June, so this month, 2 years ago in 2021, and then I went viral on TikTok in July of 2021, 10.2 million people have watched my video around the world. And that's how I got the title Worm Queen, was because I'm like one of the few people that'll go on there and break it down for you. I'm like, okay, so this is what we're trying to kill. It wasn't candida. And I saw flukes and roundworm, pinworms. And then when I got my stool tested, I found out that I had crypto, and my husband had D. fragilis, which are all water-based contaminated parasites, which parasites are different than worms. Worms are physical. I know I had physical worms, but by the time I had my stool tested, my physical worms were gone, but my husband's were still around because he wasn't doing it as like intense as me. So he was still deworming, but he wasn't deworming like I was deworming, and I was a few weeks ahead of him at that point. This has been a thing. And then after we had our stool tested, which again, you can find everything in my profiles because I want to share it with everyone. I want everyone to have access to whatever I talk about. So then I was like, this is weird. Why do we have worms? Like, I don't understand it. And he kept saying, oh, it's because we used to eat food out, and the ice, which you shouldn't eat out of, have ice at all. But also the soda machine. So anyway, so I said, I think it's our water. Like,
hip. Hold on. Hold on. What's the ice thing?
Well, most machines and most places don't use filtered water. And especially if you use ice and soda out of an ice and soda machine, they actually can make the bacteria and parasites live in there because there's sugar. So you shouldn't drink soda from a soda machine like ever. And you shouldn't
No
get
way.
ice from that either. So here this whole time, I know I'm a soul crusher, man.
Okay, but how did you get to this point? Because it sounds like you were coming in slightly knowing, like, the fact that you even bought Paragard. How
Okay, so 5 years ago, I swore I had worms. I swore I had pinworms,
was
and
your butt
my
itchy?
yeah, and, like, I went to get my pap, and all of a sudden, there was a white bump right there on the lip, and so she said, "Oh, we're gonna test that, it looks really suspicious," and my practitioner at the time, she said, "It looks suspicious," and I'm like, "Really? You're gonna like, really? Like, are you serious?" And I mean, in my mind, I'm like, "Oh my god, do I have, like, vagina cancer? Like, what is happening here?" And so she said, "I don't have time today to do it. It looks like my schedule opens up in about 10 days. Let's revisit. We'll come in, we'll do a biopsy, and we'll see." Well, I left there and I had said to her, I'm like, "God, are you sure that we need to biopsy that? Like, could it be worms? Like, could I get my dog had worms? Could I have caught them too?" And she's like, "No, no, no, we don't get worms." And I'm like, "Okay, okay. How do we not get worms?" And I'm of the age where like when you do something or you're trying to remind yourself, you do a screenshot and then it stays in your phone. Okay. So just so I knew I wasn't like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I literally did the screenshot and I've gone back and looked since. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I looked for a colonic. I looked at different herbs that can kill worms. And then I just buried my head in the sand, just like everyone else does. I'm like, oh, I don't have worms. Bam, done, moving on. So in 10 days, I go back to my practitioner and she's like, it's gone. And I'm like, Beth, do you think I had worms? And she's like, well, if you do, you don't anymore. They're gone. So fast forward 5 years, I've had my appendix removed. I've had multiple surgeries since then. They still can't figure out what's going on. I haven't pooped in like forever, like a month. And I was like desperate for help. And so I got off all my synthetic medications. I started eating right. I was taking mass amounts of different mushrooms like lion's mane, turkey tail to really heal myself. And I still didn't feel right. I still didn't feel like I should be feeling for all of the changes that I had made. I still felt trashy. And then the movement. I'm like, why? Like, what was it? This movement? Do I have MS? Because I worked in neurology. So, of course, my mind goes straight to the, oh my God, what's wrong with me? What is going on with my body? I've done all these changes and still nothing. And then the pain came back. And the pain in my right side is really important because that's where they would dig to clean out the endometriosis that I had. Well, I was told I couldn't do any more surgeries. So now I'm like, okay, well, what else could this be, right? I've seen things in my stool before that look suspicious. I felt things when I've wiped before that maybe could have been a tail. And
Shut the front door.
I've seen what I thought looked like potentially flukes. But of course, again, head buried in
What's
sand.
a fluke?
A fluke is in your liver or your blood. So a fluke usually comes from like sushi, but it really goes in and causes a lot of issues in your liver and that goes like swims in and out of your liver and they look like round, almost like marbles in your poo, like smaller oblong marbles. Like they're pretty predominant. And then I would see like just see things, just like weird things. And I lived in a trailer at the time because we were building our log home. And so you really are up close and personal with your poop in a trailer. Right. So, and then I'd have things come out of my pee. And I'm like, this is so weird. One time I was squeezing something on my face that I thought was a zit and it moved. And I'm like, nope, that's not it. That is not a zit. I don't understand what's going on. But they actually can control your mind. So they don't want to die. So they tell you that's not it. It's just coming in and like come to find out, I had animals, and that's a huge reason why you should deworm because animals deworm. Why aren't we deworming ourselves? All right. So in June of 2021, I decided to try the trend, hop on the viral trend.
I can't believe it took you
And
that long.
oh my
You
God, I
thought you
know, me
felt a
neither.
tail while you were wiping, and you're like, "Ah, maybe."
I mean, and the thing is, I just didn't know. Like, I really just was like,
Yeah.
maybe I I don't even know now when I think back because I really did
We
convince
weren't
myself.
talking about it in a medical community.
No,
We
no one
like,
talks about it.
Western medicine really likes to be like,
They
did
hate
you
it.
go to India? Then
Yeah.
why would you think you have worms?" Like,
Did you go to Mexico? And you're
right.
like, no. And by the way, they deworm at least mandatory twice a year. So they know that like their water and they have contamination
I've been to
because
Mexico
their dirt
so
is
many
dirt
times.
too. It's so weird. And if you have like blended drinks from Mexico, which I did many times, blended ice, right? Because the ice, they don't always filter the water. And then you have to make sure that the water is 3 filtered plus a UV protected light. Like this is a thing. And I know it's a thing because our water is contaminated where I live. And I live in a huge community that has a community well, and they don't test for parasites. No water source tests for parasites. They test for bacteria, and if there's no bacteria, then the zoologist automatically thinks there's no way a parasite can live in there, which is so not true because parasites and bacteria have nothing to do with each other. And they stick chlorine and bleach in our water. And unfortunately, crypto lives with bleach very cohesively. So, and I had crypto. So, of course, I like dug super deep on what you should do with crypto and what you shouldn't do. Yeah, I can't believe it took me that long either to do it, but I never really thought, "Oh my gosh, like this immediately could be parasites and worms." Like never. Just like everyone else when they come to my channel, they're like, this lady's a quack job. She's nuts." And then they start digging in and you're like, "Wait a minute. Like science 100% is behind me. I have proof, my blood work, my stool. I've tested our water here. It came up positive. Like I've done everything you can possibly think of because that's just who I am. And I dug deep and I have like all the proof, all the proof. And I was really lucky because I have one awesome practitioner that she helped me guide me through this because she had pinworms from Thailand and she was gaslit too by all of her people. So she at least had an idea. I know, and if you can only imagine, because I started a business over all of this. I literally started Rogers Hood because this is a thing and it's missing in our society.
So, you coming from Western medicine and knowing what you know, why do you think I mean, there are so I'm a chiropractor, so, like, there are so many times where I look and I go, "What what are they even learning over there?" Like, like, GI docs. I'm like or dermatologists where they'll be like, "Oh, no, 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 there's no correlation between skin and food." And I'm like, "What are they even teaching you over in that med school?" Okay, so why do you think we're so blinded to this concept that worms and parasites are everywhere? And I do need you to explain the difference of I guess I
Okay.
don't know what a parasite is now.
Parasites are microscopic. They can't be seen. You have to look at them under a microscope, and they're usually like D. fragilis, Giardia, Cryptosporidium parvium, which is parvo. Like they're actual like parasite where you have a physical worm like a nematode, which is roundworm, flatworm, tapeworm, pinworms. Those are physical. So that's where the division is. Most herbs and some synthetic medication, antiparasitics, will actually treat both of them. Most herbs treat both of them. Antiparasitics, however, synthetics, there's two multiple different kinds because the structure is a little different when it comes to the pharmacology. So you got to take one medication to treat like the parasite, and then there's another medication that treats the physical worm because they aren't smart enough to know how to put them together like the herbs do. So that's what I found out and figured out because there is no handbook for this and there's no real good guidance. And most parasitologists are pretty introvert and they don't really want to talk with you about anything. So I was like, process of elimination. I think that Western medicine doesn't want their ego hurt. And I think, and most people say, oh, it's about the money, but that's not true either because there's still money. Most people that are in this situation like me are pretty chronically ill. So it's not like I'm a one and done and all of a sudden I don't ever have to do a cleanse again. And that's the thing, it's not ever a one and done. Like I cleanse consistently now whenever I go out to eat, whenever I come
Whenever
home and I
you go
cleanse.
out to eat?
Yeah, because you have raw vegetables where they haven't soaked them properly or cleaned them, and parasites live on raw produce. You should never have, I know. This is a whole thing, my
Oh
friend.
my god. I am sinking so deep in my chair because,
Mhm.
okay, so I've been watching on TikTok how people, because they have like those ASMR videos of them like
Yeah.
really cleaning their produce, and they're not doing it to get gross shit like your videos come out. Like I've seen some of those ones that crawl out, and I'm like, "Ugh, I'm never eating a raspberry again." Um, so I don't wash my produce really. I give it like a little rinsey rinse, but that's a
Yeah.
bad. Okay, so can we just
Don't
before
worry, you're not the only one. And again, you should try Parafite Kit. You'll probably feel better if you have
Oh,
any.
we're gonna get there. I'm for sure going to, but I have lots of questions about what to expect, but we will get there.
Okay.
Can you just tell me how to clean my produce though?
Yes, of course. Okay. So I have two ways you can do it. The standard way is ready? It's 2 cups of white vinegar, a half of a lime, 2 tablespoons of Celtic sea salt, and 1 gallon of distilled or filtered water. Put it in a container like a glass bowl, or I have like plastic containers that are like this big.
Is just my
Let it
stainless steel sink okay?
no, you should
I knew you were
actually
gonna say
put it
no.
in a
Somehow
separate container to soak it, because even though you think you're getting your stainless steel sink clean, you're really not. And unfortunately, I've built a home, and the way that the system works, when you have drainage coming out from your house, your toilet, it actually has to bypass your kitchen sink to get into the sewer system. So there's things that come up in there. So you want to put it in a bowl or a separate plastic container. Let it soak for 5 to 10 minutes. So you rinse your produce first, then soak it, and then rinse it, and then it's good to go. It's gonna, like your grapes, they're gonna last longer because you're like removing the bacteria. Because there's a ton of bacteria. Actually, I'm gonna post a video today about a bag of pre-washed spinach, and they did a bacteria swab, and it's disgusting. So anyway, there's parasites, there's bacteria, there's pesticides, and people have touched your produce. So you're trying to like clean it because you're trying to nutrient your body, right, with it. So you don't want to bring more in when you don't really need to. So that's my standard way of cleaning your produce. You let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes, then rinse it again, and then it's going to last longer too. It's going to look prettier, and you will have some things that come out of there because they don't like that specific way of cleaning. And most people do vinegar and baking soda, but unfortunately, if you know the compound science behind that, it actually just creates a
naturally I
salt.
do, but let all the
Yes.
listeners know.
Yeah. So it creates a salt, and it doesn't work. So it creates this bubble thing, and that's great. But then it just cancels each other out because you're trying, it's acidic, and then it's alkaline, and it doesn't work the way everyone says. It's like a thing too on TikTok. People get in fights with me when I do my soak videos. I'm all, yo, I'm just telling you what really works. Go break the science down. So I just upped my game, and now I'm doing that soak. And then my next step is the Thurasage. It's a ozone machine. So I'm doing ozonated water, and I'm putting it in, and it takes about 10 minutes. So now I'm ozonating water, my stuff, and then I'm soaking it, and then I rinse it, and then I'm done. So it's just because I don't know, I do a lot for content too, and then I just kind of stick with that pattern. I really like the Thursage. It's like $100, and it's really easy to use, and it really cleaned my produce super good. So I've got like 2 different options. Some people don't have the $100, and it's just easier to do the vinegar soak and then be done. So much crap's going to come out. It's really disgusting. And the fact that like that's what's going into your body, especially as we're like all trying to eat clean. And then when it's organic, they still spray some stuff on our organic when it comes into the country, but they don't spray as much. It's just a different type of chemical that they spray. So you're still wanting to like clean everything.
So am I
A couple years
soaking my
ago,
spinach?
everything. You
Okay, what
soak
about like oranges?
everything.
Kiwi? Okay, everything. Bananas,
Every
all of it.
kiwi, not as much because you're not eating it.
Right.
But so what I normally do, we're big alcohol users here. We spray
I
everything with
thought you were gonna say
alcohol.
drinkers. I'm like, "Me too, girl."
I mean, we are too, yeah. So I'll spray around where I'm going to cut, right? Because one thing that can happen is you cut into that
Mhm.
kiwi, and then you just spread the bacteria across the inside of the kiwi.
Okay.
How
Okay.
many
So we were
people
talking.
touched your produce? Like, how think about that.
Yeah.
How many people? And
Well,
I can
we
show you
thought
guys
about
a
that,
video.
and I was okay with that. To be honest, I
Ah!
feel like, you know, 4 or 5 people have probably touched this, and this has touched some box, but, like, I haven't died yet. I'm not okay with the parasites, though. I'm not okay with the worms.
Yeah.
Hey, She Slayers, I have partnered with Well Aligned and Above Down Apparel to give all of my listeners something really special. So listen up, don't skip. A free premium t shirt. Okay, you get a free t shirt. So just head over to wellaligned.com/she slays to claim your listener offer. That's all you got to do. Above Down has the coolest and most comfy chiropractic tees that showcase your personality. My favorite is the Mabel. I love it. They're super soft and a great conversation starter if you do seek conversation with, your patients. We call it table talk. What more can you ask for? So I've also been using well-aligned materials for years to educate my patients. They have high quality ROF folders, patient handouts, office forms, posters, and a ton more. So, why recreate the wheel when there's a perfectly designed communication tool ready for you to help educate and inform? Head over to wellaligned.com/she slays to claim your free t shirt. And I'll drop a link in the show notes so you can check it out. Hey, She Slayers. So, a question I get asked a lot is what have I found that works best to get new patients in the door? Well, my friends over at the Pediatric Experience have put together the ultimate branding and marketing playbook that does a comprehensive job to answer this question, and they even include a free video training that comes with it. This free guide reveals the secrets to a kick ass, wildly effective marketing system that consistently brings in over 20 new patients every single month. And guess what? It's all organic. Picture this, a proven approach that will grow your patient numbers while you focus on doing what you do best, providing exceptional chiropractic care. Inside the playbook, you'll discover the 5 core elements of this powerful marketing system. From crafting a compelling brand to implementing strategic marketing strategies, they've got you covered. If you know PX, Dr. Tony and that crew, they practice exactly what they preach, and it's no different in the latest PDF Plus training they've put together for you. So if you're ready to attract more patients through the door, grow your practice, and dominate your local market, this guide is a must-have for you. So check out the link in the description to get your free download and video training. Hi, friends. I wanted to take a quick break from the episode to make sure you all know about the cool stuff we have happening over on Patreon. This is a platform where I can offer you extra content, behind the scenes interviews, quick trainings, and exclusive trainings answering your exact question live, back to back with me. It's a way for me to more directly interact with you and post some fun things that would never be in the normal weekly episodes. To check out what we're doing and to sign up, click the link in the show notes. I'd like to take a moment to thank one of our primary sponsors of the podcast, Insight CLA. The Insight tech moves the message off the spine and into the nervous system, where the magic of the adjustments can be measured and tracked. Everyone from newborns to seniors are being scanned in my practice and in thousands of other practices like ours, so they can be examined and inspired to choose chiropractic care. It's like an instant referral machine because the scans are so visible and informative. Like, what patient wouldn't want to know how their nervous system is performing? The staff at CLA are ready to take care of you and answer any questions you may have. They also have an incredible online academy that can help train everyone in the office and help them to feel confident on how to get perfect scans and how to interpret the results. We have been using the Insight technology in our clinics for over 7 years now, and it is a complete game changer for conversion, retention, and patient education. Click the link below in the show notes as She Slays listeners get preferred pricing and hundreds of dollars off their purchase. Okay, so you were saying why you
Okay.
think this is not like common knowledge because yeah, I've heard this over and over that like we are one of the only countries that doesn't do this.
Western medicine countries. So there's Canada doesn't do it. We don't do it. The UK, it's not a common practice in Australia. Those are the 4 biggest countries we ship to because we ship worldwide. So those are the 4 countries that I see our kids going to the most. Mexico just doesn't even like us. They don't usually let us in, even though we ship to Mexico. They don't really like us because they have their own type of cleansing. So they're just like, no. Um, yeah, I just think that over time, it's like the telephone game where you say one thing and then one word gets changed. And then by the time it gets to the 10th person, the word is totally different than that first person. And I fully believe, because I've written books in my past for medical when I was in the field, I could change a word and that word would become gold. So over time, it just kind of went to the wayside. Before in the 50s, it was a thing. And then in 53, at least this is the documents that I saw that were declassed. In 53, they knew it was happening, but they didn't see it as a problem. So it just was something that was omitted. And then, we're a very sue happy company or country. So if it's not in your scope of practice, you don't really want to talk about it. So I believe that multiple reasons have happened that this just became something that is of our past, not something that we should be doing in our future. And I also believe that we think we're such a first world country that there's no way we can actually
We
get
can't
this
be that gross.
right. And the thing is if you drink out of a well, you probably have worms. Like, unless you have a robust filtration system on your water, you probably out of a well. Because when I went into the emergency room once and I said, "Oh, I'm going through parasite cleansing," they were like, "Oh, do you have a well?" And I'm all, No, but my community has a well." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, that's pretty typical." And then they think that they give you this one synthetic medication and that'll take care of it. But in reality, they're in our blood, our tissue, and our muscle. And it's not a one and done. If you know you have worms and you can get a doctor to give you synthetic medications, you should take that synthetic medication, back it up with herbs, take that synthetic medication and back it up with herbs. Because what's going to happen is you're peeling that onion off. So the first layer of onion is the first round, the second layer is the third, like that's how you have to look at it until they're gone. And they still could come back. You just made them mad. So now they're in hibernation and they're in dormancy.
Where do
Yeah.
they hide?
And our blood, our tissue, and our muscle.
Okay. So you mentioned some of your symptoms, but like what
Mhm.
are like if you were just out to eat with someone, you'd be like, "Oh, I'm definitely cleansing after this." But what are some of like the main symptoms that we see go undiagnosed that are just common, like you should do a cleanse?
Well, if you go out to eat and you get home and a couple of hours later or a couple of days later you have food poisoning, you probably caught yourself a parasite.
Okay. Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
that seems pretty like
Yeah. Montezuma's Revenge.
right.
Like
But
those
like,
things
okay,
are
sorry, let me
all
rephrase that. So yes.
okay.
So
Okay.
you're out
So
to eat, what and you're talking to someone, and
yeah.
what are you telling them? Like, "Oh, this would be why you should do it."
Well, so if you have IBS or you can't get control of your poo and you're having constant diarrhea or constant constipation, that's a huge indication because your body's trying to tell you something. Headaches, grinding of the teeth, TMJ, bedwetting for children, usually bedwettings between parasites and mold. Um, you know, up all night long, peeing is mold. Um, Usually seeing things and that's unusual for your stool, bloating right after eating, feeling bloated all the time, headaches. Some countries, that's the first thing they do is tell you to go cleanse. And then they come back and they try and figure out what's wrong with you after. If all of your symptoms went away, then, you know,
Rule that out first.
mhm. A lot of people think that because you have a parasite, you'll lose weight. But in fact, for me, I couldn't lose any weight. It was just like stuck on me. And it's because I had a parasite.
Okay.
So as soon as
So
I started cleansing, I lost weight right away.
so quite a few symptoms. Okay.
Quite a few.
So what would okay, I have to just insert a story here from I just whenever I
Yes.
think about parasites. So I remember being in my anatomy class in Cairo school. And I don't know why, because I remember the professor, like maybe he also taught infectious disease. So maybe it wasn't an ad because I don't know like why. So he's telling us about pinworms. And if you have a kid that is scratching their butt a lot, they
Mhm.
probably have pinworms. And so he says, like, in order to check, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna
But
want to wait until they're no, not what he told us. The tape the tape thing I could handle. This was way worse. So, this was much more scarring. So he's like, "So you're gonna wait until the child's sleeping, and then you're gonna get a flashlight, and you're gonna go into their room in the middle of the night, and you're going to peek at their butthole because the worm will poke its head out of the anus in the middle
Mhm.
of the night and lay eggs."
Yeah.
And there were 120 students just sitting there, just absolutely jaws dropped, like, "I am never doing that." So taping seems like a much better, but, like, that was just such a funny, like, "Wait, what?" And you brought up a full moon. What?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you a really, really crazy, creepy story that might scar you. Are you
That's
ready?
okay, I'm so ready.
Okay. So the Amish, right? The Amish cleanse, it's a ritual with them as well. And one of the things that the Amish do if a cow gets out, because their cows are grass fed and then they give them the fresh water. If a cow gets out and drinks out of the river and anyone complains of a stomach ache, they immediately stick them in a milk bath because tapeworms that the cow has contracted shoot its head out of the butt and then they pull.
Wha Okay, so you actually I just saw a post of yours about this, about doing okay, so is that how you can I just give my kid the Parafy?
Yes.
Why would somebody do that instead of Parafy?
I mean, the from all of the articles I've read, I'm like, I would just want to take the medicine.
Yes,
It's
yes,
very
the
traumatic the thought of it at all, but I guess they just wanna make sure that the child or the adult has the correct diagnoses because they have their own, like, herbal setup. Like, they have their own setup on what they do for each of the worms. We here in our country don't have access to their medicine country, right? Because they do things in a really cool way. So like the closest we could get was the Parafy kit to the way that like our ancestors and indigenous people treated parasites. This like our kit is the closest you're going to get to like the old way of doing things.
but the old way is
So
milk and
the
like
Amish do the milk as like a preventative, and then they pull it out, and then they treat them after with their herbs and stuff. Now for Parafy, which is my kit, I actually studied the way that indigenous people did cleansing and the way that our ancestors did cleansing and the way other countries do cleansing. And so that's how we came up with our tinctures because we're tincture based. We're not pills. I don't like I do have done a lot of pills for antiparasitics, but I really think the tinctures are like the way to go because they immediately get into your bloodstream. They're in our blood and tissue, and it doesn't take as long because you don't have to digest it like you do pills.
so how young can someone detox or yeah,
Well,
do this?
with Parafy, we say age 3 and up.
Okay.
We went off of the most strict herb, which was wormwood. Wormwood says 3 and up can do it. So any child below 3, we just say you need to do zeolite. That helps remove the heavy metals, which then releases the parasites. But it doesn't necessarily kill the parasites, and that's the issue. You're at least getting it to a point where it's manageable.
Okay. So, what would somebody expect? I mean, obviously it depends on how many parasites and where, but like, is it are you tired? Are you getting headaches?
Mhm.
Are you like, what is the process? Like, do you have to eat certain ways? Like, how
Yeah.
long does it take?
So it can our kids 30 days, but some companies do like 90 days, 100, I just didn't want to make someone buy a 90-day kit and then they're like, this is just not for me. And then they spent all this money. So we say 30 days, see what happens. And it's $100. So it's like, well, I mean, if all of a sudden you're 6 days in, you spent $100 and it works great. You're 6 days in. I mean, it could take 30 plus days. Like you're making your body inhospitable the best way that you can for them to not live in you anymore. And so you do have a diet that you should follow, but it's a guide. No meat, no alcohol, no carbs. And yeah, I mean, but the thing is like My husband doesn't ever follow it, and he has very successful cleanses, but his cleanses are a little longer, and he has maybe a few more die-offs than I do, just because, not anymore, but when we were doing it, he had way more die-offs. That's what we call them when they're dying off. Obviously, the word die-off should make you think that like things are dying in you, because they are. You're literally taking herbs to kill things in you to get rid of them. So flu-like symptoms, headache is pretty common, huge breakouts is very common. So, those are kind of the common things that when you're going through a process of detoxing, you're gonna have happen.
So I'm
But
assuming
then
the meat is because you don't wanna be just adding more parasites
yeah,
in?
that and they like it. Like, you're trying to not feed them, you're trying to rid them. And so you're trying to not make them stronger, you're trying to weaken them.
So, I mean, it sounded like you're just eating fruits and vegetables.
You can eat white meat and
Oh.
grass-fed beef,
Oh,
but if
okay.
you really wanna push through, like, a lot of cleansers, just the more you cut the diet and make it the easier, but just because you don't do it, doesn't mean it's not gonna work. So I
Right.
think that that's kind of where an indoctrination happened to us, where we were told, "Oh, if you drink milk with this antibiotic, it's not gonna work anymore." That's not really the way herbs work, but you're trying to rid your body of them. So we try and tell you, like, do the best you can by not taking on the food that we say not to take. But
Okay.
you're still going to have a successful cleanse.
What is the grossest or weirdest story you've had a client or patient who's bought the Parafy tell you?
Oh my God, there's so many,
I bet there
because
is.
we've sold like tens of thousands of these kits. We're so busy. We do like 1,000 a week of kits. It's quite insane. It's quite insane how busy we are.
So
Yeah,
so people are just it's just mostly stuff that's coming out in their bowels.
yeah.
And then how do
Bowels.
they you had said something about testing. So, like, if I do the Parafy and I'm, like,
Mhm.
looking at my poop and I'm like, "Well, there's nothing swimming in there,"
Yeah,
and I'm feeling normal and no change, like, do I sh would you say then, like, send your poop in and get it tested?
yeah, yeah.
Who's testing
So
my poop?
Parasites.org is a
Don't
company
mail it
that
to
I go
you.
through. They'll mail everything to you. I don't trust LabCorp. Sorry. I just don't. I actually did my stool with LabCorp and with Parasites.org. Same stool, sent them off. LabCorp came back negative. Parasites.org came back with crypto. So I don't trust the full system. But unfortunately, most doctors don't believe Parasites.org. So your insurance company is probably not going to pay for anything, and that becomes the problem. Anyway, if you're still feeling yucky or nothing happened, it's like $250 to get your stool tested, and they test 35 different worms and parasites. And it's all they do all day. They get stool, they look at it under a microscope, multiple different types, multiple different samples. So when I trained LabCorp people, so this is how I know that LabCorp does what they do, because I worked in academia and I ran 25 healthcare colleges for DeVry and I was a professor. So I trained lab people, I trained medical assistants, medical billing, coding, and pharmacy. So I trained all these people. So I know they only get 3 minutes to spend on stool. And if for some reason nothing comes up, they automatically mark it negative, but they put in the fine print that this is not guaranteeing you don't have a parasitic infection. It's just we didn't see eggs or a worm at this time. So that's the difference. So they're not looking at it all day. It's probably some 20-year-old kid in the lab who just got out of school and he has 3 minutes to look at your stool and move past it. But they're not saying that they
He's not
didn't.
getting paid enough. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like maybe $13 an hour. And most doctors don't know when you're looking at blood work on a full moon is when you should get your blood work done and then have them look at it, because the EOS in your blood is a clear indication you either have parasites, mold, or fungus growing in your body.
Hold up.
Period.
Okay, I'm so glad you remembered the full moon thing. I also don't know what EOS is. Okay, let's talk full moon and what EOS.
Esophils. It's like part of your
Oh,
CBC.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So most doctors just say, "Oh, you're trying to get over some sort of an infection." But that's not the truth actually. It doesn't heighten, it just they live in your cells. So when your cells are at that heightened level, it's going to be high. And so my EOS was always high and no one ever knew why. And so I got my blood work and my stool at the same time and they all came back positive, and I was very sick.
Okay, so why are they more active at the full moon?
So if you do a cleanse, you should actually start it 3 days before the full moon. It's a French folklore, which we all know the French eat a lot of snails and stuff. So I kind of believe them, right? Over other. Okay. So what happens is your body creates more serotonin during a full moon, and parasites actually like serotonin. That's why they make you feel bad about yourself. That's why they make you not like yourself, especially during a full moon height, right? Because all of a sudden out of nowhere you're like, oh, my life is great, and then full moon comes and you're like, I am not a good person, like in your mind, right? Because that is their way of removing your happiness so that you don't go and cleanse, that they can control you. And so it's a really weird sci-fi feel, but it's true. So that's why you should do it over the full moon, because they've now dislodged themselves to move into your body and create all new families,
Okay.
and
Okay.
the serotonin gives them more energy. I
Okay,
know.
so my body naturally creates more serotonin during a full
Yeah.
moon. This is they
Mhm.
like serotonin. Do
Mhm.
they eat the serotonin
Yes.
with their little parasite mouths? How
Yes.
do
Like, they absorb it. So they're sponges. So they're absorbing 90% of your nutrients, your serotonin. Like, that's why people are so chronically ill.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is
Heavy metals.
wild.
And
Mental
then
health
and
stuff?
mental health, it's huge because they live in our lymphatics. So I had a lot in my lymphatic system. Oh, I can go so deep, man. So I also get stellate ganglia blocks, which is a steroid that helps with my PTSD, and it gets injected here and here. So steroids actually stall them and put them to sleep for just about 2 to 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they'll wake up and they're even more angry because you've starved them, because they didn't fully die. They weren't able to drop their pee and poop, and they weren't able to leave eggs on their way out, or that they were just stopped. So steroids actually put them in like a state of halt.
Okay, so mm, did they what's their lifespan? Like, when I don't understand, like, are they always living in me? When are they coming out my pee and poop? When they're like, "I've had enough." She's
If you
hostile.
make your body inhospitable, if you've
Okay,
done
so, like, the
something that
times
they
that
don't
you've
like.
seen it, you accidentally made your body hospitable?
Yes. Uh-huh. And on their way out, they've laid eggs. So that's where you bring in specific herbs to help rid that next cycle. So, and the thing is they may not disrupt your life for a extended period of time. So I thought I had worms in, like, I don't know, we'll say 2015. I think that was around the date. And then I was fine. And then in about 2017, something happened in my body and I became very ill. Like, life just went. So unless you've removed them before, they don't just die. Like, that's that's the thing that everyone thinks. You physically have to do a cleanse because they can go dormant and then come out anytime they want and then cause disruption.
Huh, huh. So even if I sit in a bathtub of milk and wait for the head to pop out my anus, right? Not my urethra, my anus, right? That's where
Right.
it's and
Yeah.
then I'm grabbing it with my hands, tweezers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, and it's
I mean, I don't know
long.
if I'm that flexible. I'm assuming a mirror is involved in this.
And then you have to cleanse. Like, if
And then
you
you still
have
have to cleanse
tapeworm.
anyways.
Yeah. And tapeworms can lay 1 million eggs a day.
Ah!
They have 46 uteruses in, like, each, like, 4 segments. And well, once you get the head, most of the time that it, like, is done. Well, okay, let's talk about toxo. Let's kind of go to toxo, and then you'll understand when I'm saying that they can tell you what's going on. Cats and mice don't like each other. Mice have toxo. Mice then hang out with the cat. The cat eats the toxo because the toxo wants a new host and is telling the cat, eat me. So there's like this weird vibration going on, a frequency. They're alive. So there's like a thing going on, right? So think about that. You can pick your spouse, you can pick your partners, you can pick your significant other. who also has a worm because they can communicate and control what you're thinking.
No, my God.
They make you eat sugar. So if after 7 o'clock you decide, I want to eat a bunch of food, I want to eat a bunch of sugar, that's a parasite. It could be as small as candida, which is the overgrowth of yeast.
Will
Or
Parafy kill Candida?
yes,
Oh, g
we have 3 tinctures. We have a parasite tincture called Parafy. We have a sustain, which is the Candida cleanse, and then we have metal flush, which releases heavy metals. So heavy metals hang out in parasites and toxins, and spores also hang out in them. That's why we created a mold kit. Because as you're releasing the parasites, the heavy metals, spores, if you've been exposed and your body cannot remove the spores safely, then they create their own ecosystem in your body.
okay.
This is a thing.
Yeah,
It's a thing that, like, it's really tough because there aren't a lot of root cause doctors out there, and these are 2 huge root causes of people's health issues.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Okay,
there's
so
not enough.
I'm gonna start with Parafy,
Okay.
and then I go to a mold kit, or then
Yeah. So we kinda
how do
everyone
I know when to stop doing the Parafy and when to start doing the mold?
usually, so this is kind of new, right? So I did the Parafy kit for a year since we've been around since 2021. Yes, I did it quite a lot, and I also rotated to synthetic medications, and then I rotated back to herbs, and then I switched it up a lot. And then I got really sick in August of last year. My eyes swelled shut. I didn't know what was going on, and I would take Parafine. I would feel better, but not optimal. I would stop, and I would get sick again. And I found out that I had black mold poisoning. Yeah. So a lot of us that are chronically ill, we don't have a lot of movement, high cholesterol, because it mold lives in cholesterol. So when you have high cholesterol, you should usually be tested for Aspergillus niger, because it lives in cholesterol, it lives in that mucus, it loves it. But while you're cleansing, some of the herbs that you use for anti-parasitic herbs are actually anti-mold herbs, but they're not anti-killing the mold herbs, right? They're just going in and helping your body and supporting your body enough that you feel good. But then when you stop taking them, it suppressed it and now the molds come back. So a lot of people that have like Lyme and that have been exposed to parasites and mold go together. Like usually if you have been in the mold, you usually have some sort of a parasite as well. They just like to live in harmony. They create an ecosystem in your body and they're best friends. And then when you remove the parasites, the mold's like, well, my buddy's gone, but now the house is mine. And so it just really takes over. And so you have to go in and really like take charge of it. And most antiparasitics are anti mold, but they're not killing the mold. There's a difference. It's suppressing it, suppressing the immune system to a point where you're like, okay, I can get rid of these parasites. You let it go, and your mitochondria has been depleted. And most of us need that mitochondria boost. And a lot of mold herbs are mitochondria support as well.
Okay, so then do you do heavy metals after that?
Well, in the Parafy kit, we do parasites, candida, and heavy metals at the
Oh,
same time.
okay.
Yeah. And then you go in and you can do moldies, and then you can switch. That's our kit, moldies. And then you can switch back to Parafy. And by doing this, you're kind of shocking the body a little bit and you're
Yeah.
giving it different source of nutrients and herbs that it's been missing. It's like one of our tinctures in moldies has oyster mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, and those two have like zinc and magnesium. Our body just doesn't get those anymore from our food.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm definitely
okay.
gonna have my 8-year-old do this. Oh, I'm
Hmm.
definitely gonna have my 11-year-old do this. So we start with Parafy, and I
Yep.
should be looking in their poop, right? Like, especially now?
If you
Like,
want to.
well, I mean, want to is a very, like, but, like, I wanna see if there's something in my kid's poop, for
Yeah.
sure. So, like, I'm gonna be
Have
looking at
you
their
ever had
poop because what?
yeah. Have they ever had itchy butt? Like, have you guys ever gone through during the full moon especially? Are they a little off? Are they itchy? Like,
Yeah, a a little bit, not like drastic. Because as soon as, one of them said, like, "My butt's just really itchy," I was like, "Oh, no." I remembered the flashlight story, and I was like, "No, I don't wanna do it." But then, like, a week later, it stopped.
yeah, it's
I
because
hadn't
they're
gotten around to getting batteries in my flashlight, so
You're
Like,
like, I am
oh,
not.
shucks. And then I had somebody, because she has very large bowels, say, like, well, maybe
Yeah,
it's just a fissure, like from like a, and I was like, that's probably what it is. I'll just wait. So, okay. So I'm going to be looking in their poop, because more than likely during the Parify, like
yeah,
there should be more things in there. Right.
yeah. Right.
Okay.
Because we're cleansing the system. Now, if you don't cleanse your child when they have itchy butt, they for children especially, pinworms live in your appendix. So 95% of people that have had their appendix removed have active pinworms.
Interesting. That
Yeah.
probably could have avoided
Same.
an emergency appendix. Okay. So how long do I know how how do I know how long to keep them on there before I go to Moldies?
30 days, then you wait
Okay.
7 and you can put them on Moldies. 30 days, you can wait 7 and not have them go on Moldies. They can
Well,
just, you can
we're in
just
the
do it 3 or 4
Midwest.
times
We've
a
got a
year.
basement. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah.
can literally see black mold growing
Yeah.
on the corner of our ceiling in our bathroom.
Okay, so here's how you deal with that. Okay. There's a thing, it's easy to do. You probably had a leak somewhere and it never got fixed. So you probably will have to at least remediate at some point. This is just like a band-aid because the spores are going to go rampant. And when you start to do a Parafficate, you're going to know that that mold is affecting you. It almost like removes the band-aid in which the parasites have put on your body for mold. So you never want to use bleach. You always just want to use peroxide. Bleach actually spreads most spores, and we don't know exactly which strain of spores you have. So you want to use peroxide and let it sit for 10 minutes and wipe it. And you want to do that either every day or every other day. Vinegar is a lot longer to leave on there. So you want to only use vinegar or peroxide. You never want to use bleach with mold ever. And then you want to keep your fan going in that bathroom at all times because that's going to pull any spores that could potentially get out and go up in. You also want to get a dehumidifier specifically just for your bathroom because when it starts to get humid in there from taking a shower, the condensation, the dehumidifier, just a small one, right? Just a small dehumidifier is going to help with that. People that have it really bad where you can see it like that, I usually say don't keep your toothbrush in there, don't keep a towel in there, and keep the door shut until you can remediate that area.
Just burn it down. Just
Right,
burn
right.
it down. Start a
So
new
I
house.
also have an option in my profile, or anybody can go to gotmold.com and they do air tests, which is super awesome. It's like $150 per room and it's like 300 for 3 rooms or something like that. So we had mold in our trailer and while we were building this house, we lived in our travel trailer on our property and we had mold, we had black mold and it was slowly killing me. So when we moved into this house, we didn't bring anything with us because the mold was so bad in the trailer. The spores took a hold on everything we owned. And so when we moved into this house, we got mold has this little container. It's like a little air thing, and then you put a pad on it and it collects all the spores. You send that pad to them and then they tell you what mold you have in your house.
Okay. Okay. Well, this has
It's a
been
thing.
one of the grossest, most entertaining, most comical, most educational PowerPoints I've had in over 200 and some episodes. So thank you.
Welcome to my
Where
life.
can people find you? Where do you recommend sending people to like go down the rabbit hole, the wormhole?
The wormhole.
Yeah. And to, if they want to buy the Parafy kit and do it with me.
So you can go to, I have a TikTok account, Mrs. Rogers Hood is my TikTok handle. Instagram is Miss Rogers Hood. And I feel for the person who has Mrs. Rogers Hood account on TikTok or on Insta because I'm sure I know what she gets because I get it too. And then I have a website where my product is rogershood.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I will be messaging you soon. Oh my God, such a creepy episode. But like,
The
I
wormhole.
people should be absolutely warned before going to
Mhm.
your social media. But
Yeah.
like,
It
it,
used to be worse. I've been slapped my hand a few times because I used to post the pictures, which was super helpful for people,
yeah,
but they told me I can't do that anymore. So they're all on my
pictures of
website now.
pictures of worms and poop.
Oh, yeah, like, you name it, I have it, I've seen it, it's been
Your
there.
husband is just like, "Kim,
He doesn't
damn
I
it,
I know.
stop being such a weirdo." I love it.
He looks over well, at least I got a fun name. Worm Queen is much funner than Worm Lady, so
Yeah, it is. All right, She Slayers, we will have those links in bio, or in the show notes before, and, yeah, go check it out and keep me in the loop too. I'm usually a chicken on this stuff. It takes me forever, but, like, I don't know. I have a feeling my husband's gonna listen to this episode and be like, "Oh, we are all doing this now."
Yeah.
So
I mean, 3 to 4 times a year, what do you have to lose? If it makes you feel better, great, it's 30 days.
right. All right, She Slayers, until next week, bye.